Why does it feel like every time you start to feel a bit of peace that you get pulled right back into the pain? You don't want to live there. You're not choosing this. You're not trying to stay stuck, but it keeps happening. You take one step forward, and then something happens and you pull inward again, inside of that pain. Your thoughts feel out of control. Your body moves back into that coping mechanism of survival, and suddenly you're right back in to the weight of your child's death again. If that sounds familiar, friend, stay with me. Because today we're going to talk about why grief does this and what is really the cost of taking the step you desire to take but can't quite make it happen. What's truly holding you back might be a surprise to you. Stick with me. This might be one of those days where the path forward lights up just for you. If you're grieving the death of your child and you want the steps that lead to believing with confidence that life is still worth living, then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Teresa, a grief mentor. That's been where you are, and I teach grieving moms like you how to navigate life after child loss. If you're ready to take a step of courage and build a solid foundation to live with hope and purpose, then I'm here to teach you how. Are you ready for what God has for you? Then I'm ready to teach you. Before we move into the teaching content today, I want to invite you to the live gathering on February 26th and 27th. Friend, I want to meet you. I want to spend some time with you. If you've been listening to these episodes and you're thinking, I understand, but I don't know how to actually live it out, then this time together is just for you. Okay, so go over to my show notes right now and register before you forget it. Or if you're a Grief Mentor Insider, you can go to my email and actually register right there in your email. All that does, friend, is put it on the calendar for me and you. It allows me then to keep in contact with you so that I can send you out a reminder the day before and 1 hour before. And once you register, you will automatically receive the replay. So if you're not able to attend live, do not let that stop you from signing up for this gathering. Now, let's get into the teaching piece today. In the last episode, we talked about 3 foundational things: how to replace lies with truth, how to choose to grieve God's way, and how important choosing support is instead of doing this alone. Now today, we're going to go one layer deeper, okay? Because here's what I know to be true. Listen closely. Even when you know the truth, even though you want peace, even though you're doing the right things, grief can still pull you back into the pain. I'm going to explain to you why that happens. The death of your child is the most violent loss of control that a mom or a dad can experience here on planet Earth. You couldn't stop it. You couldn't protect them. And you couldn't change the outcome. And when something that catastrophic happens, the human response is simple. I couldn't control that, but I sure can control everything else. Then control becomes that silent coping mechanism that you don't even realize. Because it doesn't feel like control to you, friend, or me. It feels like survival. But here's the hard truth. Oh, and this is a hard truth today. That peace that you so desperately desire. And maybe you've had some glimpses of it along the way. That rest for your soul that you desire. It requires 2 things that can feel really, really risky. And that's surrender. And friend, we cannot reach a place of surrender until we reach a place of trust. And both of those can feel really risky when your world has been shattered. Now, I want to frame this for you differently today. We're going to go to a familiar story where Scripture can give us language for what we're living. I'm going to give you a little different take on this story today, so stay with me. We're going to go into the book of Exodus, and we're going to talk about when God led his people out of slavery. Now, we need to make an important point right here. They had been enslaved for over 400 years. The idea of being relieved from the pain of slavery must have felt completely unreachable. But one day it came, and the anticipation of that moment cannot be framed into words right here for me and you, because we didn't live it. We can only read about it. But let's put ourselves in their shoes for a minute. If you read the story, the expectation builds, right? There's this conversations that keep happening between Pharaoh and Moses. And all of these events start to unfold, and it starts to build. And then all of a sudden, it happened because it was all part of God's timing. But then suddenly, Pharaoh realized what he had done, right? And he went after them. You know the story. But let's talk about what happened after the Red Sea parted. You see, freedom didn't come all at once, did it? They were freed from their slavery, but they were most certainly not free. Here's what I want to teach you today. Living free requires daily dependence. It requires unfamiliar rhythms, trusting God's provision instead of controlling outcomes. You see, when they got on the other side of the Red Sea, they didn't receive a map. They received his presence. A cloud by day, a fire by night. Listen to what the scripture tells us in Exodus chapter 13, 21 through 22. By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. You see, the promise wasn't, when you get on the other side of the Red Sea, life is going to be grand. Read the story. Because receiving God's promise doesn't mean that we understand everything. It doesn't mean that we get a map of how it's all going to be laid out. This is why the Exodus story matters so much to me and you. Because I'm going to teach you something about the hidden cost. And I'm not talking about the hidden cost of child loss. I'm talking about the hidden cost of taking that step forward, where you can start to move in that direction where peace and hope live. You see, there's a hidden cost that's keeping you stuck. And though you're not able to verbalize it, you're not able to name it, it's still there. You often hear me talk about the cost of living through your child not walking with you here on this earth. But I want to flip the switch here. I want to help you see this from a different perspective. Moving toward that place where that peace you so desire lives comes with a cost. And that cost is surrender. Surrendering the illusion of control. Why does control feel necessary for you? Answer that question. Sit with it a minute. Hard truth. Living in a place where you think you are in control is actually keeping you stuck. Because surrender isn't something that you flip a switch and you're done. It requires practice. It requires safety. I want to invite you to come join me on February 26th and 27th. If you haven't already registered, why not? Right? I want to be able to help you figure out what is keeping you stuck. You can quickly find that in my show notes or in your email if you're a Grief Mentor Insider. Okay? So answer the question, why do you keep slipping back? I want to pause here for a minute because I want you to think about the answer to that question. I want you to personalize this for your journey. Why do you believe that you keep slipping back? I'm going to share my thoughts with you. because knowing truth is not the same as living it. Yeah. Grief doesn't change through insight alone. It changes through small, surrendered steps. Because healthy coping mechanisms must be learned. Okay, we cannot remove an unhealthy coping mechanism without replacing it with a healthy one. But those need to be learned. God didn't ask the Israelites to understand the wilderness, did he? What did he ask them to do? He asked them to do the same exact thing he's asking you to do. Follow me. We cannot follow without surrendering. He gave them a cloud. And following requires daily trust, but it doesn't produce instant peace. Control will always win if surrender remains theoretical. What does that mean, Teresa? It means those small steps of surrender must be practiced. When you begin living differently, even in small ways, everything starts to shift. This is the turning point. Being able to surrender is not passive. It's a choice. It's daily. It's approaching the throne of God humbly on your knees with your hands wide open. Surrender says, I'm willing to take the next step even when I don't feel ready. Transformation happens when truth moves from your head into your lived choices. Slowly. One boundary. One decision. One faithful step at a time. This, my friend, is how unfamiliar rhythms become familiar. This is where I want us to land today. Rest is not found at the end of the journey, right? Rest is found in God's presence along the way. Exodus 33:14 says this. The Lord replied to Moses, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. You see, friend, rest and peace are not earned. They're not figured out. They're received. You see, he's inviting you to live under his covering, where peace doesn't erase pain, but pain no longer gets to make the choices. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? We are the ones that make it complicated. One of the best ways to get out of your own head is to allow your pain to be witnessed. Honoring your grief doesn't give it power, friend, but it does release the power that your grief has over you. Write that down somewhere. Come join me, February 26th and 27th. Let us witness your pain. In the story that I shared with you today, in the book of Exodus, we often focus on the fact that they, quote, wandered for 40 years, as if they never received the promise. But I see it a little differently. They most certainly received the promise, because the promise has always been, but I will be with you. And that's all I have for you today. So until next time, take care